another story of a great national interest, and this is the development in the North Gauteng High Court hearing the matter regarding the murder of a former Bafana captain. So Makhosonke Zungu, who allegedly attended a meeting where the murder of soccer star Senzo Meyiwa was planned, is expected to continue his testimony today. Yesterday, he denied ever meeting one of the state's key witnesses. This is Sizwe Zungu, or attending a gathering with him in October of 2014. He instead testified about 3 separate interactions with Zungu, which he says took place between 2015 and 2019. Linda Mnisi joins me now for the latest on that story. Before you head out and watch another day of court proceedings, it's so interesting, this testimony, which then comes after, well after the murder of Senzo Meyiwa. Again, it goes to the veracity of his own affidavit, his own statement that he provided to police. It's not the first time we found ourselves in the situation where witnesses or the accused have backtracked from what they initially told police.
Absolutely, and we seem to have also experiencing the same thing here, especially when he speaks about, you know, the statement and how his statement was obtained, telling the court or detailing the events leading to that particular statement being taken, saying that initially he had been contacted and told that he had, you know, a rape case that dates back many years, and then he finds out from one of his colleagues that there's an issue. There was a call that was made to, you know, where he worked, and they indicated that he has a murder case, right? And ultimately the police came. He identified some of the people that were there, saying they were TRT members, and ultimately leading up to this particular statement. And he says, at that stage, the disagreement with the police started when the statement was made. So it seems they did not agree with the police on the statement. But of course, at the crux of, you know, his testimony is going back to the issue of prior planning. You'd recall, Iman, that the state here alleges that there was prior planning to the murder of Senzo Meyiwa. This was a contractual killing. So the prior planning aspect becomes very, very important and very key. And that's why you see the defense focusing. I mean, this is their second witness who's testifying to events that happened at the hostel. They're focusing largely on what happened at the hostel. First, it was the alleged host who said he never hosted a gathering in October 2014. And now one of the attendees, Makhosonke, who also says, I never attended a gathering, particularly with Zungu, in October 2014. In fact, he says at that particular time, he didn't even know him, right? He only met him in 2015, and it was through the alleged host. This is Sizwe Zungu, who's Gwabini, and who's a relative to Constable Sizwe Zungu. I know there are quite a lot of Zungus, right? But essentially, the Constable Sizwe Zungu is the state witness who brought, you know, this information to court that there was a gathering, and his nephew, who's Gwabini, Sizwe Zungu, is the one that was hosting. So Makhosonke is an attendee who's said to have met with Constable Zungu and went to the hostel together. But he says that didn't happen. In fact, in 2015, I was preparing for my wedding, and while I was preparing for my wedding, I met up with the alleged host. And when we met up, he then suggested that we meet his uncle, who was a police officer who lived in Tembisa. We then went and met him. We had drinks and whatever. That was the first time I interacted with him. It's interesting because when you listen to the testimony of the alleged host, he says he hadn't seen him in years and only saw him in 2017. Now, here's an aspect where one of the witnesses comes and says, we were together in 2015, but the alleged host says, well, we were together in 2017. But it's also interesting that the events that Constable Sizwe Zungu described of there being, you know, a gathering are also finding themselves, you know, the details are slightly different, but when you listen to how the events unfolded, it's as if they are telling the same story, just with a different date. And he says, it was in 2017 when we met in Joburg CBD. Ultimately, we drove and suggested, let's go to the hostel to visit the alleged host. And on our way there, we bump into accused number 1, and then we buy alcohol. But it's also important, you know, that the evidence of accused number one having said that, you know, has anybody heard that Senzo Meyiwa has died, is also finding itself in this particular evidence, because it was testified to by Constable Sizwe Zungu, you know, and it also comes, and you find it in the alleged host's statement, which he, of course, denies. But obviously, this is an important aspect, because the state is alleging that at that time when these remarks were made, nobody knew that Senzo Meyiwa had died. So he continues today, particularly around the issue revolving his statement, testifying to the circumstances that really led to that statement being taken.
As you say, that foundational piece around premeditation, so key, so pivotal to all of this. Thank you for breaking that down for us again, Linda Mnisi. Off you go to the North Gauteng High Court.